This is the story of Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, who is known as the Butcher of Khan Younis.
I am Yahya Ibrahim Hassan Sinwar. I was born in 1962 in the Khan Younis refugee camp in the Gaza Strip. My family were Palestinian refugees who had fled from their village near present-day Ashkelon during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War.
In June 1967, Israel was fighting against Egypt in the Six-Day War. Sinwar has taken shelter with his family from the fighting between Egypt and Israel, which they believe will end with the liberation of Palestine.
Yes, brothers, sisters, we will see how Allah will help our fighters to defeat the Zionists. They will throw the Jews into the sea.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
But it's soon clear to Sinwar that the Israelis will prevail.
Oh no, Astaghfirullah. The Israelis have seized Gaza and Sinai from Egypt, the Golan Heights from Syria, and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem from Jordan.
In Israel, there is euphoria.
Our dreams of returning to our homeland from which we were exiled began to crumble like the sandcastles we had built as children. My father also died in the fight against the Jews. Now only my mother could take care of us. This is nothing but shame and humiliation.
Sinwar was a devoted Muslim, and his hatred of the Jews is based on the anti-Semitism in the Quran. For instance, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 61, Ali Imran, verse 112, Al-Ma'idah, verses 60, 64. He believes that the Jews have no right to live in Israel and that the land belongs only to Muslim Palestinians. But the facts show that the Jewish people have a long-standing and exclusive right to the land of Israel. Countless archaeological artifacts have been discovered that confirm the Bible's descriptions of the ancient kingdoms of Judea and Israel. Under Caliph Umar, the Muslims captured Jerusalem in 637 AD. This conquest solidified Arab control over the region. For several centuries, Arabs ruled over Israel until they were challenged by the First Crusade in 1099. Therefore, based on history, the Jews are the indigenous people of the land of Israel, and the Arab Muslims came to colonize it. Although the Quran contains many verses condemning the Jews, it also states that Israel belongs to them. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, verses 20-21, Allah commands the children of Israel to enter the Holy Land, which is Israel. Verse 21 says, "O my people, which is the children of Israel, enter the Holy Land, which is Israel, which God has ordained for you." Nowadays, most Muslims refer to the Holy Land in verse 21 as Palestine, but the Quran never mentions the name Palestine at all. Moses never took his people to Palestine. The Quran references Israel 40 times. The Holy Land in verse 21 is clearly Israel. If it were meant to be Palestine, Allah would have said so. It is evident that neither the Quran nor the Prophet Muhammad recognized Palestine as the Holy Land, suggesting that contemporary reinterpretations of these verses may serve modern political agendas.
My school friends and I would rather play Arabs and Jews than cowboys and Indians. All the Muslims in our society taught us that we are refugees because the Jews took our land. So don't tell me about the two-state solution. We want only one thing, to get rid of all the Jews into the sea, and we will not stop until we achieve it.
On October 6, 1973, a radio broadcasts the startling news that a new war has erupted. This time it is the Yom Kippur War.
Dear Muslim fighters, hear us, hear us! The Egyptians and Syrians, determined to avenge their humiliating defeat in 1967, have launched a surprise attack on the Israelis during the Jewish holy day of Yom Kippur. Allahu Akbar! Yes, they will help us achieve our victory and return the stolen land to us.
However, after a few days, these aspirations are shattered.
We are defeated again, ya Ikhwan. Astaghfirullah!
Large Arab countries like Egypt and Syria, with far greater armies and weaponry, fought against a small Jewish nation. With Allah's help, we should have won this war easily, so why couldn't the Arabs achieve victory?
4 years later, the Egyptian leader Anwar Sadat makes his landmark visit to Jerusalem. He declares to the Knesset, Israel's parliament, that he is open to peace.
This is such a catastrophe. Anwar Sadat deserves to die for betraying the Palestinian struggle. Israel is Dar al-Harb, no peace until it becomes Dar al-Islam.
When Sinwar was a young man, he met Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, who at the time was one of the most influential Islamist leaders in Gaza.
Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, was very charismatic. He was a small man confined to a wheelchair as a result of a spinal injury he suffered in a sporting accident as a boy, and he spoke in a high-pitched voice. Despite his disability, he built a fervent following. In the 1970s and 80s, as the founder of Mujama al-Islamiyya, or the Islamic Center, he established mosques, youth groups, schools, and clinics.
In December 1987, a spontaneous uprising began in Gaza and then throughout the West Bank that came to be known as the First Intifada, or shaking off. It was sparked after an Israeli vehicle struck and killed 4 Gazan men as they returned home from their daily work in Israel. Many young Palestinians were convinced that the accident had been a deliberate act of aggression and went into the streets, hurling stones and setting tires ablaze. The day after the incident, Yassin assembled a group of associates in a modest house in the Al-Shati refugee camp in Gaza City, and they founded Hamas as an Islamist alternative to the PLO. By that summer, Hamas had released a charter declaring its commitment to eliminating Israel and denouncing what it called the Nazism of the Jews. Hamas was mainly dedicated to jihad against Israel.
With the Hamas organization, we declare that our commitment is to eliminate Israel. Hamas was primarily dedicated to waging jihad against Israel. To establish internal discipline and moral rectitude, I set up the Hamas unit called Munasamat al-Jihad wa al-Da'wa, or the Majd, and selected Yahya Sinwar to help lead it. Majd is a special squad that punished those who collaborated with Israel or who committed offenses against Orthodox Islamic morality, including homosexuality, marital infidelity, and the possession of pornography.
Sinwar, who handled southern Gaza for the Majd, reportedly carried out his duties with icy efficiency and without a trace of regret.
I eliminate people who deserve to die. For instance, I target this barber because he had obscene material in the barber shop that he sometimes showed his clients quietly behind a curtain.
Sinwar's new power and position really showed his true character. He was a sadist who enjoyed torturing and harming others for trivial reasons.
My instruction is very specific. We need to enforce loyalty and punish disloyalty. Any Palestinian informer who confesses to cooperating with the Israeli authorities, kill him straight away.
Sinwar's mission was to torture collaborators and intimidate anyone in the community considering working with the Israelis.
I tortured collaborators and intimidate anyone in the community considering working with the Israelis. I used the cruelest methods. I would drip boiling oil on people's heads to get them to confess to collaboration. Yes, they were afraid of me.
He mutilated and beheaded 12 Palestinians with his machete because they were accused of being Israeli informants. Why not just shoot them?
It's not as satisfying with a machete.
Because of his fondness in using his machete to do his task, he became known as the Butcher of Khan Younis. Hamas carried out such actions so frequently that Amnesty International reported in 2009 that during IDF operations in Gaza, men and women suspected of working as Israeli informants were routinely abducted, tortured, executed, and either dumped in remote areas or found in the morgue of one of Gaza's hospitals.
In fact, Israel has recruited thousands of Palestinian collaborators to provide intelligence, including the whereabouts of Hamas leaders. Sheikh Yassin was killed in an Israeli airstrike in March 2004. How did they know how to strike so precisely if they didn't have information from the inside? Just 1 month later, his successor, Abdelaziz al-Rantisi met the same fate.
For his murders of Palestinians, Sinwar was arrested by Israeli police in 1988 and sentenced to 4 life terms in a facility in the Negev desert.
I know that I will be released one day to resume armed resistance. Israeli prison is my academy, a place to learn the language, psychology, and history of the enemy. Like many other Palestinians designated as security prisoners, I became fluent in Hebrew and consumed Israeli newspapers and radio broadcasts, along with books about Zionist theorists, politicians, and intelligence chiefs.
Yuval Bitton was a dentist in the Negev prison. In addition to being a dentist, Bitton had trained in Romania in general medicine, and he sometimes assisted the prison physicians.
I treat members of Hamas, Fatah, and Palestinian Islamic Jihad who had been imprisoned for various terror-related crimes. Sinwar was among them. In 2000, we suddenly received many new prisoners who are hardcore terrorists from the Second Intifada. Jerusalem suffered a brutal wave of suicide bombings. Because of this, the IDF arrested many Muslims from Palestinian cities and towns. The prisoners retained the structure of the organizations they came from. If it was Hamas, they lived together as a group, Hamas with Hamas, Fatah with Fatah. They retained a semi-military life, and they were very tough. Prisoners held periodic leadership ballots, and in 2004, Sinwar became the emir of the Hamas prisoners.
One afternoon in 2004, Yuval Bitton saw Sinwar at the jail clinic.
Hi, Sinwar, what's your problem here?
Oh, I lost my balance and fell down when I tried to get up from prayer. I feel a severe pain in the back of my neck.
You may suffer a stroke. I should tell your doctors about this.
Sinwar was transferred to Soroka Medical Center, where, on the same day, he underwent emergency brain surgery to remove a potentially fatal abscess. If the Israeli doctors had not treated the abscess that day, he would have died. A few days later, Bitton stopped by the hospital to see Sinwar.
How are you doing, Sinwar?
I'm good now. I owe you my life.
But Bitton knew that Sinwar's statement meant nothing because Sinwar cared only about his own life and his mission to eliminate the Jews.
I later on find out that Yahya Sinwar killed my beloved nephew, Tamir Adar, on October 7th, 2023.
Yahya Sinwar was released in 2011 as part of the Gilad Shalit prisoner exchange deal, in which Israel freed 1,027 Palestinian prisoners in exchange for captured Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit. Upon his release, he quickly reassumed a leadership position within Hamas in Gaza. In 2017, Sinwar was elected as Hamas's leader in Gaza, succeeding Ismail Haniyeh, who became the head of Hamas's political bureau. His election marked a significant shift as he represented the military wing's growing influence over Hamas's political leadership.
The Israeli government should not release Sinwar. This is a terrible idea. This guy tortures, kills people with glea, you know. His life is dedicated to terrorize Israel and he won't stop. I remember what he told me in the past.
I acknowledge Israel's military strength, and it can have a truce that may last a generation. But I'm confident that Israel could not count on its strength forever. It was innately fragile. Fissures between the country's religious and secular populations would deepen. After 20 years, you will become weak and I will attack you.
Sinwar invented many gruesome ways to torture and kill Palestinians. He proudly told me that he forced a man to bury his brother alive with concrete cement because he was suspected of being an Israeli informer.
In the past, Sinwar said that,
I don't need a wife. I'm already married to the Palestinian cause.
but within a month of his release, he married a woman 18 years his junior named Samar, and they have 3 children.
To prepare the big war against Israel, we built hundreds of tunnels in Gaza for military purposes. Each one is several miles long, with many branches. We got the funding from regional allies, international aid, especially Iran. We spent years digging and building those tunnels deep underground.
In May 2021, tensions rose in East Jerusalem, especially over the threatened eviction of Palestinian families in Sheikh Jarrah after a long-standing property dispute. Protests grew, and during Ramadan, large gatherings formed at Al-Aqsa Mosque. Clashes between Palestinian worshippers and Israeli police erupted. Hamas, positioning itself as a defender of Al-Aqsa, issued demands for Israeli forces to withdraw. When these demands were unmet, Hamas launched rockets into Israel, leading to an 11-day conflict between Hamas and the IDF. Because of this conflict, Hamas organized a conference in September 30, 2021, at the Commodore Hotel in Gaza City, at a conference called Promise of the Hereafter, Post-Liberation Palestine. The purpose of the discussions, according to accounts by Haaretz and the Middle East Media Research Institute, was to prepare for a future after liberation, that is, after the State of Israel disappears. They intend to kill or prosecute the Jewish population. Shlomi Eldar, an Israeli journalist with myriad sources in Gaza and the West Bank, explains,
The conference was serious because the Hamas leadership stopped thinking logically and began thinking religiously. When you think that you have been chosen by God to carry out his mission, you believe everything is possible.
This decision to erase the State of Israel is rooted in nothing but hatred. Look at the cities of Gaza before that time. Palestinian society was flourishing, with well-developed neighborhoods and modern amenities. The Muslim population in Israel has grown significantly, especially in Jerusalem. In contrast, the Jewish population throughout the Muslim world in the Middle East has nearly disappeared. For example, Morocco. The Jewish population was 250,000 in 1948. In 2024, it is only about 2,000. Algeria. The Jewish population was 140,000 in 1948. Now it is around 50. Tunisia. Once home to 150,000 Jews, Tunisia now has only about 50. Libya. The Jewish population was 38,000. Now it is 0. Egypt. Once 75,000, the Jewish population is now only about 4. Yemen. The Jewish population was 55,000. Now it's fewer than 10. Iraq. The Jewish population was 150,000. Now only about 7 remain. Syria. From a population of 55,000, fewer than 10 Jews remain. Jordan. The Jewish population was 2,000 in 1948. Now it's fewer than 100. Lebanon. The Jewish population was 5,000. Now fewer than 100 remain. This depopulation stands in contrast to Israel, where the Arab population has flourished. In 1948, the Arab population in Israel was approximately 156,000. Today, it is more than 2 million. This growth is due to Israel's policies of respecting and supporting its Arab population, while many Muslim-majority countries hate their Jewish populations. As I explained earlier, the source of the hatred is in the Quran that teaches Muslim to despise the Jews. Non-Muslim Arabs don't have such animosity toward the Jews. On October 7, 2023, Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Daif, the Hamas military leader in Gaza, unleashed Al-Aqsa flood operation, the most devastating attack on Israel in half a century. Thousands of Hamas fighters breached Israeli defenses through a combination of methods to infiltrate Israel from the cities of Sufa, Sderot, Kfar Aza, Be'eri, and Nahal Oz. They broke through the fortified border fence between Gaza and southern Israel in multiple locations, using explosives to create openings and bulldozers to widen breaches. They reportedly used motorbikes, vehicles, and even paragliders. They killed 1,200 and kidnapped 250 Jews. On that day, the all-female tank unit of the 33rd Caracal Battalion was sent to combat the Hamas terrorists at the city of Sufa and Holit in southern Israel. There are 40 women of the unit.
We are the first soldiers that were sent to confront them directly in combat. As Hamas fighters breached Israeli border defenses, our unit with Merkava battle tanks mobilized swiftly, engaging in 17 hours intense battles to stop further infiltration.
We had rockets and guns and grenades coming down on us, but my soldiers were more than up to the fight. They did us proud. They were lions and lionesses. That day, I told my soldiers we are going out to eliminate terrorists, and that's what we did. We were able to kill 100 of Hamas terrorists and stop them advancing further into Israel. Every terrorist that approached my soldiers was taken out. They didn't return to Gaza.
On October 7, 2023, Ismail Haniyeh, the head of the Hamas Politburo, addressed the Palestinians the importance of sacrificing themselves for Hamas's war against the Israelis. Haniyeh said that the deaths and blood of Palestinian women, children, and elderly people were welcome because they served his cause. As long as it wasn't the sacrifice of his own life and blood, Haniyeh couldn't care less. He comfortably hid in Qatar for his own safety, while celebrating the October 7th attack with a prayer, together with his cronies. Israelis already understand that peaceful coexistence with such a neighbor may never be possible. Even if Israelis were to relinquish their land, Hamas would drive them out entirely to the sea. Since then, the IDF and IAF have retaliated harshly. First, they told the people of Gaza to leave their cities and towns and go to the border near Egypt. Then the IDF and IAF began their attacks. More than 1,300 buildings in the Gaza Strip were completely destroyed, while another 55,000 housing units were damaged. This damage affects both residential and non-residential areas, including homes, businesses, hospitals, schools, and public infrastructure. Many Palestinians decided to stay put, resulting in 40,000 casualties. This number of casualties did not bother Sinwar, because he believed that these are just war casualties. In the past, when he was still in prison, Yuval Bitton asked him,
Is it worth it to achieve your goals if it means sacrificing many innocent people, Israelis and Palestinians?
We are ready to sacrifice 20,000, 30,000, 100,000.
Although Sinwar had no problem sacrificing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians for his cause, he was unwilling to risk his own life or that of his family. On October 6th, a day before the attack, he took his family into hiding in one of Gaza's tunnels. For months, Shin Bet and the IDF launched an intense manhunt to locate Sinwar and other senior Hamas leaders. Reports indicated that Sinwar, along with his family, had moved into a network of underground tunnels and bunkers built by Hamas to evade Israeli strikes. These tunnels, some of which ran deep beneath Gaza City, provided a shield for Hamas's leadership as Israel intensified its bombardment of Gaza. On October 16, 2024, Israeli intelligence agencies gathered information on Sinwar's movements, which revealed he was hiding in tunnels across Rafah, an area with multiple tunnel networks. The IDF started to examine these tunnels. They didn't know that actually Sinwar was indeed inside the tunnel. Once Sinwar knew that the IDF soldiers were getting closer, he and his bodyguards were forced to come out from the tunnel to the surface. At night, the 828th Bislamach Brigade of the IDF was patrolling Tal al-Sultan, an area in Rafah. They spotted 3 men moving suspiciously from building to building.
Look at them. Hey, you guys, stop!
They hide in that building. Call for a tank. We need a tank here.
A tank arrived and fired at the building.
Let's use a drone to check the condition of the inside of the building. Oh, look, that guy's still alive. We need to stop him.
They neutralized him with a shot to the head. Since it was at night, they decided to wait until morning to see the damage they did. In the morning, the IDF soldiers noticed that the person they shot last night looked familiar.
This guy looks like Sinwar.
DNA and dental records later confirmed that the identity of this person was indeed Yahya Sinwar. Yahya Sinwar spent his entire life pursuing his dream of eliminating the Jews and taking over their land. He was a product of a society consumed by extreme hatred for their neighbors, where the desire for destruction became the center of their lives. Sinwar had the opportunity to change when he met kind-hearted Jews in prison who cared for his well-being and even saved his life. However, it was clear that no amount of kindness from the Jews could change his hardened soul. His evil actions not only led to his own downfall, but also caused the suffering of his people, who blindly followed him. On October 25, 2024, the IDF issued an ultimatum to Hamas members in the northern Gaza Strip: surrender or die. Hundreds of them decided to surrender rather than join the virgins in Jannah.
I thought they hate infidels to death and would rather die and meet the virgins than surrender to us. Perhaps they realize now that Allah is nothing but a figment of Prophet Muhammad's imagination.
The Palestinians voted for Hamas to govern Gaza Strip in June 2007 election. They agree and support Hamas' mission of hatred and war toward the Jews, believing it was in accordance with Allah's command. However, as usual, Allah abandons them in their conflict with Israel. Everything they had is gone, and now they must pay the heavy price of war.
In 2005, Israel handed over the Gaza Strip to the Palestinians, evacuating all Israeli settlers and even providing greenhouses to grow food. We offer kindness and peace, but they immediately destroyed those greenhouses, and the land was then used to launch severe attacks against us. They seek this conflict and we respond accordingly, but now they present themselves as victims.
Ismail. Oh, yeah, my beloved Ismail. At last I meet you again.
Yeah, Aki, it is hot here, but not as hot as you.
Who needs 72 virgins if I have you in my arms?